From the horrible condition of the rundown arenas, to our first look at the younger version of President Snow, the first ever trailer of the Hunger Games sequel has revealed new details. It's time to be transported back to the beginning of the games. You've been waiting a long time for this, but let me tell you, it's been worth the wait. The newly released trailer was dropped at CinemaCon to the amazement of the dystopian series fans, and it gave a pretty good look into the film and what we can expect from it. The trailer starts with the head game maker herself, Volumnia Gaul, introducing the creators of The Hunger Games themselves. And get this, she's brought to life by Viola Davis. From the get-go, viewers are warned that this is unlike anything they've seen before. Academy Dean Casca Highbottom shares the changes as he lectures the mentors, making it clear that their job is to turn the tributes into spectacles, not survivors. Barely a couple of seconds in and it's giving dark and twisted vibes. Suzanne Collins threw it way back to the 10th Hunger Games in this film. That's 64 years before the events of the trilogy took place. This time around, we're looking into the mind of none other than the tyrannical President Snow. That is, way before he ever reached that point in his life. We are shown a young Coriolanus Snow as he becomes a mentor to a tribute named Lucy Gray Baird from the poor District 12. But she's not just any tribute. Her singing talent and charm have caught Snow's attention, and he believes he can turn the odds in their favor to win the games. Still, the early footage shows Lucy questioning her mentor's faith in her ability to survive the dangerous arena. "You really want to take care of me in that arena? Start believing I can win," is what she says to him. We didn't get to see her singing talent in this trailer. Instead, we got an in-depth look at the tributes facing the worst version of Hunt or Be Hunted, and it's nothing like what we saw in the original films. I'm sure you remember what it felt like to watch the original films when they came out. The concept of throwing children into an arena to fight to the death is still pretty disturbing, right? But what's even more messed up is how the tributes were treated like celebrities before the barbaric games, making the whole thing seem more like a reality TV show rather than the mousetrap it was. That's something you won't see in the upcoming sequel. As we take a trip to the old days, we see the origins of the capital after the First Revolution, and it wasn't pretty. Forget the over-the-top cinematics and clothes. The days leading up to the games are less like the Met Gala and more like what they are, an inhumane tradition. Back in the day, the upper class of Panem hated the tributes and treated them like they were less than animals. When Katniss and Peeta participated in the games, they were given luxurious quarters and plenty of food. But the first tributes were brought to the capital in a dirty cattle car, sick and starving. And it gets even worse. They didn't receive any medical care and were thrown into the zoo's monkey enclosure. That's right, a monkey enclosure. The tributes were caged and starved up until the games took place. It's no wonder that many of them died in that process. As crazy as it is to think about how different things were back then, that's exactly what Collins wanted to do with this book's adaptation. Not only were the novels successful, but each of the films did also insanely well too. But something was missing from them, and as the author, she had to fix it. Fans grew accustomed to Katniss Everdeen's version of Panem, the one she grew up in and the one she went to war in. We watched her go from a tribute to victor to rebel in a thrilling journey. But while we know where Panem ended up after the Second Revolution, we know nothing of its beginnings. That's why Collins thought it fit to create a storyline for the past, which would put the future into perspective for us. After all, I'm sure you've wondered how Snow became the ruthless leader he was. We'll know all about it when we get to see Panem from his point of view in the prequel. We'll also get to see how the games were run shortly after the devastating First War between the capital and the districts. On top of that, it'll explore the origins of the Hunger Games themselves. We'll learn about the early experiments and how they evolved to become the brutal event we see in the original series. So basically, the prequel's going to expand on the world building of the original series while also giving us a deeper understanding of some of its most important characters. But the film might need to take a different approach. If you're thinking that Songbirds and Snakes will be just like the other previous films, you might be surprised when you see that it's going in a different direction. While Francis Lawrence is back in the director's chair, the story is much more political and romantic.
It was great. You sort of never break away for, your entire life for that period of time.
Which is a far cry from the action-packed survival tale that Katniss went through. Don't get me wrong, the action and the tribute's struggles were a huge part of what made the original Hunger Games movies so iconic. And yes, politics and love played a strong role then too. But the prequel needs to differentiate itself and show something new. That's why the movie needs to change things up and give more space to Lucy's perspective, which is something that wasn't explored in the book. Collins kept readers in Snow's head, but the movie can't afford to do that, especially if it wants to meet fans' expectations. People want to see her point of view and experience the game from her eyes. That much has become clear already. It took fans no time to take over Twitter as they gushed about the trailer. They've even made countless edits to Lord's iconic soundtrack for the original films. And guess what? They're all centered on Lucy. I mean, what else were they supposed to do when Rachel Zegler paid homage to Katniss's iconic bow? Just from the sheer amount of edits I've seen on Twitter, I can tell you that the majority of the fans would want to see as much of Lucy on screen as they can.
I volunteer! I volunteer! I volunteer as tribute. I believe we have a volunteer.
In fact, back when the novel came out, fans weren't happy with the idea that Snow was being humanized with an origin story. So if that's what they end up seeing in the film as well, it might end up disappointing them even more. But there's also a chance that they'll just be happy to see anything from their favorite universe on the big screen once again. The entire fandom has collectively gone crazy ever since they've had a first real taste of what's to come. Many of them have even apologized beforehand for what they'll become once the film comes out, all because of the unbelievable hold that this series has on its fans.
Welcome to the world premiere of The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1!
As for suggestions, most of them are concerned with the soundtrack of the film. Of course, everyone wants Lord to do this one as well, but one fan had the great idea to get Mitski on board for the OST. So here's all you need to know about the big day. We don't want you getting a heart attack when you walk into the cinema after the premiere on the 17th of November, 2023. After all, it's been 11 years since the first one was released. And if I speak of the casting, it's impeccable, as always. Aside from Viola Davis and Rachel Zegler, who have taken Hollywood by storm in a short time, you'll see stars the likes of Hunter Schafer, Peter Dinklage, Laurel Marsden, and Tom Blythe. And for now, that's all on the newest details revealed about The Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.